The hall of first contact was built to impress. Its ceiling was so high that the lights looked like stars trapped inside crystal glass. The walls were smooth and curved, made from a silver metal that reflected every movement. Human soldiers stood in neat lines on one side, stiff and quiet. On the other side stood the alien honor guard, tall, elegant beings with long limbs and calm, unreadable faces. In the center of the hall, on a raised platform, sat the alien queen. She was larger than any human in the room, but not in a monstrous way. Her body was graceful, her posture perfect, and her dark eyes held a sharp intelligence that made even trained soldiers uneasy. She wore a living crown, a band of glowing symbols that shifted slowly, like breathing light. This was Queen Seothara, ruler of the Valari Dominion, one of the oldest and most powerful empires in the known galaxy. No humans spoke unless spoken to. No one dared move. Captain Daniel Reyes stood near the front of the human delegation. He was not the highest-ranked officer there. He was not a politician. He had been chosen because he had survived 3 border wars, spoke calmly under pressure, and had once talked a hostile alien crew into standing down using nothing but patience and bad jokes. Right now, none of that felt useful. The Queen's gaze moved slowly across the humans, stopping on each face as if weighing their worth. When her eyes reached Daniel, they lingered a second longer. He felt it like pressure on his chest. The translator device in his ear hummed softly as the Queen spoke. "Human representatives," she said, her voice smooth and deep. "You stand before the Valari throne."
Your species has expanded rapidly. Some would call it reckless.
Some would call it impressive. A few human diplomats nodded carefully. Daniel stayed still. "You claim your kind seeks cooperation, not conquest," the Queen continued. "Yet your fleets appear wherever conflict exists." The human ambassador cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, humanity has learned the hard way that isolation leads to extinction. We protect our interests, yes, but we also protect our allies." The Queen tilted her head slightly. "An interesting definition of protection." The tension in the room thickened. Daniel could feel sweat forming under his uniform. He hated these moments, too quiet, too formal, too easy to misstep. Minutes passed as questions were exchanged. Trade routes, border agreements, military limits. Everything was measured, slow and careful. Too careful. Daniel noticed the human delegation growing nervous. The Queen's expression never changed. No anger, no warmth, just control. He knew this pattern. He had seen it before, when talks dragged on, when silence became a weapon. Without fully thinking it through, he spoke. "Your Majesty," Daniel said, his voice cutting through the stillness. Every human head snapped toward him. The Queen's eyes returned to him. "You may speak, Captain Daniel Reyes." His heart jumped. She knew his name.
Daniel swallowed. With respect, these talks feel less like a meeting and more like a test.
Humans aren't great at ceremonies. We tend to do better when things are honest. The ambassador looked like he might faint. Damar.
The Queen studied Daniel for a long moment. Honesty is rare in diplomacy.
"Why should I value yours?" Daniel's mouth moved before his brain caught up.
"Because," he said, forcing a small smile, "if I wanted to lie to you, I'd be doing a much better job."
A few Valari guards shifted. A low sound moved through the alien side of the hall. Surprise, maybe. The Queen did not react. Daniel felt the need to fill the silence. It was a bad habit, a dangerous one. "You know," he added, trying to soften the moment. "For someone everyone is terrified of, you're actually very composed, strong. Honestly, you'd make a cute wife." The words echoed. Then the universe stopped. The translator in Daniel's ear went silent for half a second, then repeated his words in flawless Valari. The human soldiers stiffened like statues. The ambassador's face drained of color. Queen Salfara did not blink. Her crown flared, its symbols locking into sharp, rigid patterns. The light in the room dimmed slightly, as if responding to her presence. Daniel's stomach dropped. This was it, he thought. This is how interstellar war starts, with one stupid joke. The queen rose from her throne. The sound of her movement carried through the hall. She stepped forward, each motion deliberate, powerful. She stopped directly in front of Daniel. Up close, she was overwhelming. Her eyes were deep and ancient, holding knowledge far older than humanity's entire history. "You have issued a bonding proposal," she said calmly. Daniel opened his mouth. No sound came out. "In Velari law," the queen continued, "a spoken claim before witnesses, when accepted, invokes the right of union. Bulls, I accept." The hall erupted. Human voices shouted in confusion. Alien guards struck the floor with their weapons in a sharp, echoing rhythm. The living crown on the queen's head glowed bright gold.
Daniel felt like he had been punched. "Wait, no, Your Majesty. I didn't," he began.
The queen raised one hand. Silence fell instantly. "Your intent is irrelevant," she said. "Your words were clear. Your tone was sincere. Your challenge was public." She leaned slightly closer. Do humans not stand by their claims? Daniel's throat went dry. The human ambassador rushed forward. "Your Majesty, there's been a grave misunderstanding. In human culture, such words can be humor. A social gesture. Not a binding declaration." The queen's gaze shifted to him. Cold and sharp. "Then your culture is careless with power," she said. "Among my people, such carelessness does not exist." A tall Velari noble stepped forward. "My queen, this human is unworthy. The right cannot—" The queen turned on him, eyes blazing. "The right has been spoken. The Dominion does not bend its laws for convenience." She looked back at Daniel. "Captain Daniel Reyes," she said. "From this moment, your life is bound to mine under Velari law." Daniel felt the weight of 1,000 stares. I'm just a soldier," he said quietly. "I didn't mean to insult you."
"You did not," the queen replied.
"You spoke without fear, without calculation. That is rare." Her voice softened just slightly. "Good and dangerous." Human command channels exploded with urgent messages. Daniel's wrist display buzzed nonstop. He ignored it. "What happens now?" he asked. The queen straightened. "Now, the galaxy watches." "My people will test you! Your people will fear this bond!" She looked around the hall. "And those who wish to see humanity burn will act." The realization hit Daniel like ice water. This wasn't just embarrassing. This was political, biological, possibly catastrophic. The queen stepped back, returning toward her throne. "Prepare him!" she commanded the guards. "The trials begin at dawn." Guards moved toward Daniel. The human ambassador protested.
"You can't just take him." The queen did not turn around. "I already have." As the guards escorted Daniel away, he glanced back once.
The queen was watching him, her expression unreadable. But not cruel, not amused either. Daniel's mind raced. One joke, one sentence, and somehow he had just become bound to the most powerful alien ruler in the galaxy. And for the first time in his life, Daniel Reyes truly understood fear, not of death, but of what surviving might cost. Daniel did not sleep. The room they placed him in was not a prison, but it felt worse. The walls were smooth white stone that glowed softly, giving no shadows and no sense of time. There were no bars, no guards inside, yet Daniel knew escape was impossible. Everything here was designed to make him feel small without ever touching him. He sat on the edge of the sleeping platform, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. One joke, he thought again. One stupid joke. Back on Earth, it would have earned him laughter or an awkward apology. Here, it had rewritten his future. A soft sound came from the wall, like breath moving through stone. Captain Daniel Reyes, a calm voice said.
The Queen requests your presence.
The wall opened smoothly. 2 Valari guards waited outside. They were tall and quiet, their armor shaped like living metal. Their eyes watched him closely, not with hatred, but with judgment. Daniel stood and followed them. The palace corridors were vast and curved, like tunnels carved by time instead of tools. Symbols glowed along the walls, telling stories he could not read. As they walked, Daniel noticed something unsettling. Valari citizens had gathered along the path. Nobles, scholars, soldiers, all watching him pass. Some stared with open curiosity, others with anger, a few with something close to fear. He realized then that the Queen's acceptance had not been private. The entire empire already knew. They entered a wide chamber open to the sky. Above them, alien stars burned bright blue and white. In the center stood Queen Sayalthara, alone this time, without her throne or crown. She looked less distant without the symbols of power, but more dangerous. "Come forward," she said. Daniel obeyed, stopping a respectful distance away.
You are afraid, she said. Yes, Daniel replied honestly.
Good, the Queen said. Fear means you understand the weight of what you touched. She walked slowly around him, studying him like a puzzle. Daniel stayed still, hands at his sides. "Do you know why my people reacted with such force?" she asked. "Because I crossed a line I didn't know existed," Daniel said. The Queen stopped in front of him. "Because you spoke as an equal." Daniel frowned slightly. "Among the Valari," she continued, "no one speaks to the Queen without purpose. Compliments are rare. Gestures are almost unknown. And proposals." She paused.
"They are sacred. I didn't mean it as a proposal," Daniel said again.
"I know," she replied. "That is why it matters." Daniel looked up, confused. "You spoke without hunger for power," the Queen said, "without strategy. That is something my people lost long ago." She turned away and gestured toward the open space. "Tomorrow, the trials will begin. They are not designed to kill you." That did not comfort him. "They are designed to reveal you," she added. The next day came too quickly. Daniel was escorted to a massive arena carved into the palace itself. It was open on all sides, with tiers rising high into the air filled with Valari citizens. The noise was low and heavy, like distant thunder. Human observers were placed far away, separated and silent. At the center of the arena, Daniel stood alone. A Valari herald stepped forward. "By ancient law, the bonded must prove worth not through dominance, not through blood, but through choice." The first trial began without warning. The ground beneath Daniel shifted. Stone plates moved apart, revealing a deep pit. Inside were several Valari civilians, unarmed, frightened, trapped as the walls slowly closed in. A voice echoed, "You may save yourself, or you may try to save them. You cannot do both." Daniel did not hesitate. He ran to the edge, searching for a way down. There was none. The walls closed faster. He removed his belt, wrapped it around his arm, and anchored himself to a loose stone. The fall was brutal. He hit the ground hard, pain exploding through his shoulder, but he stayed conscious. The civilians stared at him in shock. "Move!" Daniel shouted. "Climb me!" Now, one by one they escaped, as the walls closed tighter. Daniel felt stone scrape his back, crushing the breath from his lungs. He pushed harder, teeth clenched, refusing to let go. When the last civilian escaped, the pit sealed shut. Daniel collapsed. Medics rushed in, both human and Volari. He barely noticed. High above, Queen Salthara watched, her expression unreadable. The second trial came later. Daniel was placed in a chamber with shifting illusions. Voices whispered lies, human voices, Volari voices, accusing him of weakness, of manipulation, of being unworthy. They showed him visions of Earth burning because of him, of humans kneeling before alien rulers, of himself standing beside the Queen while his own people turned away. He dropped to his knees, shaking.
Then he stood. "This isn't real," he said aloud. "But my choices are."
The illusions faded. Murmurs spread through the watchers. The final trial was the hardest. Daniel was brought before the Queen herself, in private, with no audience.
You may walk away, she said. I will release you.
The bond will be broken, but my people will see you as one who rejected destiny. That path will not be kind. And the other choice? Daniel asked. You stay, she said.
You face my court, my enemies.
My expectations. Daniel was silent for a long time. I don't want power, he said. I don't want a crown. I don't even understand your world. The Queen nodded. Good. Then answer me this. She stepped closer. If my enemies strike at humanity because of me, will you stand? Daniel thought of Earth, of soldiers he trained with, of people who had no idea how close the galaxy was to them. Yes, he said. I will. If my people doubt you, she asked, will you endure? Yes. If this bond costs you your old life, she said quietly, will you regret your words? Daniel met her eyes. No, he said, because I meant them kindly, even if they were foolish. Something changed then, not in the room, but in the Queen. Then the trials are complete, she said. News spread quickly. The Volari court was divided. Some nobles demanded Daniel's removal. Others began to speak of prophecy. Humanity's leaders panicked, unsure whether to prepare for war or alliance. And far beyond the palace and the dark spaces between stars, old enemies listened. They had seen the bond, and they decided it was time to test humanity. The warning came without sound. Deep in the Volari outer defense ring, a listening station vanished, not exploded, not damaged, simply gone. One moment it existed, the next it was empty space, as if it had never been built. Volari command felt it before they understood it. Queen Salthara stood in the strategy chamber when the reports arrived. Her advisors spoke quickly, voices tight with control. Daniel stood beside her, still wearing a simple uniform. No symbols of rank beyond his human insignia. A void strike signature, one general said. Confirmed. Daniel's jaw tightened. He had seen similar data before. That's not a pirate attack, he said.
That's a military probe.
The Queen looked at him.
From whom? From someone who wants to know how fast you react, Daniel replied.
And how humans respond when tested. The room fell silent. The Volari Dominion had many rivals, but only one species used void strike technology so cleanly. The Karth Syndicate, ancient, patient, and ruthless. They did not rush into war. They studied. Then they erased. They are testing the bond, the Queen said. Yes, Daniel answered.
And they'll push harder.
Human High Command responded within minutes. A secure link opened above the chamber, showing the faces of admirals and generals back on Earth. Some looked angry. Others looked afraid. You're sure about this? One admiral asked Daniel.
If we move fleets now, it sends a message. Daniel didn't look away. If we don't, it sends a worse one.
The human officers fell silent, startled by the authority in her gesture.
Humanity is not my shield, she said calmly.
Nor am I yours. But those who strike at one will face both.
Her words carried weight.
Ancient weight. Daniel felt it then. The shift. Not alliance. Not treaty. Something deeper. Within hours, Valari fleets moved to defensive positions. Not aggressive. Not hidden. Open and clear. At the same time, human ships exited slip space along the border, taking formation with practiced calm. The galaxy noticed. Karth observers noticed most of all. The next attack came 3 days later. This time it was not a station. It was a Valari colony world. The strike was precise. Power grids collapsed. Orbital defenses shut down without damage. Panic spread, but casualties were minimal. It was not an invasion. It was a message. Daniel watched the live feed from the command chamber. Cities darkened across the planet's surface. Millions of Valari civilians sat without power, communication, or protection.
They're showing restraint, Daniel said quietly. That's worse. The Queen's hands clenched slightly. They wish to show they can hurt us without consequence.
And they're waiting to see if humanity flinches, Daniel said. Human command did not hesitate. A human task force broke formation and jumped directly toward the affected system, not to attack, but to protect. Shield ships deployed over the colony, restoring power with human tech designed for disaster relief. Medical ships followed. Valari commanders watched in disbelief.
They are exposing themselves, one noble said. Why would they do this? Daniel answered before the Queen could.
Because if civilians become targets, humans stop asking permission. Karth forces responded immediately. Their ships emerged from the void like shadows pulling themselves into reality. Sleek, dark, silent, they did not broadcast. They did not threaten. They fired. The first human ship took the hit directly. Its shields flared, held, then stabilized. Damage control teams moved with calm precision. The Valari had never seen anything like it.
They didn't retreat, a Valari officer whispered. They won't, Daniel said.
Not now! The Queen watched the battle unfold, her expression hard and focused. Your people fight differently. They fight to protect, Daniel replied.
Winning comes second. That was the moment the Karth made their mistake. They escalated.
A focused beam struck one of the shield ships, pushing its systems beyond safe limits. The human captain did not retreat. Instead, he ordered the ship between the beam and the colony's surface. The shields collapsed. The ship burned. The beam stopped. Silence filled the chamber. Daniel closed his eyes. The Queen felt something twist deep within her, unfamiliar and sharp. Loss, not strategic, personal. Human command did not shout, did not rage. They adapted. New formations formed instantly. Valari ships moved without orders, aligning instinctively with human tactics. The two forces began to move as one, covering weaknesses, reinforcing strengths. The Karth withdrew, not defeated, but unsettled. When the battle ended, the colony world still lived. But the cost was clear. Later, in a quiet chamber overlooking the stars, Daniel stood alone. He stared out at the darkness, shoulders heavy. The Queen entered without sound. You blame yourself, she said. I brought humanity into this, Daniel replied. People died because of a joke.
They died because they chose to stand. Daniel shook his head. That doesn't make it easier.
The Queen was silent for a long moment.
My people believe rulers must be distant,
she said, untouched by grief. I believed this too. She looked at the stars. Now I am not so certain. Daniel glanced at her, surprised. You feel it now, she continued.
The weight of command when lives are not numbers.
Daniel nodded slowly. Welcome to being human. For the first time, the Queen let out a quiet, almost amused breath. News spread fast. Across Valari space, citizens spoke of the human ships that came without demand. Of the human captain who held the line so others could live. Across human space, people watched the footage. They saw alien civilians protected by human shields. They saw Valera ships move to defend human vessels without hesitation. Public opinion shifted. Fear turned into pride. In the shadows, the Karth met. The bond is not weakness, one of them said. It is force multiplication. They will unify others, another replied. Then the bond must be broken, the first said. Plans were made, not for open war, for removal. Back on the Valari capital, Daniel was summoned to the Queen's private council. Her closest advisors were present, their expressions grave. The Karth will strike again, one said. Not at fleets. At symbols. Daniel understood immediately. They'll come for me, he said. The Queen did not deny it. You are not expendable, she said firmly. Daniel met her gaze. Neither are your people. If I'm the target, let me be the shield. The room erupted in protest. No, the Queen said, her voice cutting through all others. He will not stand alone. She turned to Daniel. If they wish to test this bond further, they will find it unbreakable. For the first time, Daniel realized something important. This was no longer about survival. It was about what the galaxy would become if humanity and the Valari stood together. And far away, the Karth prepared their final test. The attack did not come with alarms. That was the first sign something was wrong. Daniel was walking through the inner palace corridor when the air shifted. It was subtle, like a pressure change before a storm. His instincts reacted before his thoughts. He stopped, hand moving toward the small human sidearm he was allowed to carry. The corridor lights flickered. Then the guards fell. They did not scream. They did not fight. They simply collapsed, their armor darkening as if drained of power. Daniel ran. A section of the wall dissolved into shadow, and figures stepped through as if space itself had opened for them. Karth operatives, silent, precise, built for one purpose: removal. Daniel fired. The shots slowed them but did not stop them. One raised a weapon that hummed with void energy. Before it could fire, the corridor exploded with light. Valari guards poured in from both sides, weapons blazing. The Karth returned fire, moving with unnatural coordination. The air filled with heat and motion. Daniel ducked behind a pillar, heart hammering. This was not an assassination attempt. This was an extraction. They wanted him alive. The realization chilled him more than death ever could. A voice echoed through the corridor, calm but filled with command. Daniel. To me. Queen Sealthara stood at the far end, surrounded by her elite guard. Her crown flared bright, symbols shifting rapidly. The space around her felt heavier, charged. Daniel sprinted toward her. The Karth advanced, cutting down guards with frightening efficiency. One of them lunged toward Daniel, and the Queen moved. She stepped forward and struck the floor with her staff. Energy surged outward, distorting space itself. The Karth operative staggered, their movements suddenly slow, like insects trapped in resin. Behind me, she ordered. Daniel obeyed. The Queen raised her hand, and the palace defenses awakened fully. Walls sealed, gravity shifted. The attackers found themselves pinned, unable to escape the trap they had entered. Within minutes, it was over. The Karth operatives dissolved into nothingness, leaving no bodies behind. Final. Silence returned. Daniel exhaled shakily. The Queen turned to him. Her eyes searched his face, not as a ruler, but as something closer. You are unharmed, she said. Thanks to you, Daniel replied. Her jaw tightened, thanks to my failure to anticipate their boldness. News of the attack spread instantly. Across Valari space, fear surged. The Karth had struck at the heart of the Empire. In human space, the reaction was immediate and furious. Human fleets mobilized without waiting for orders, not for revenge or defense. In the following days, Daniel was moved to a secure command station orbiting the Valari capital. The Queen insisted on his presence during every strategic discussion, not as a symbol, but as a voice. Some Valari nobles resisted.
He is the target, one argued.
Remove him, and the danger ends. Daniel stood before the council. They won't stop if I'm gone.
They'll just pick the next reason. The Queen supported him. The bond did not create this threat.
It revealed it. Reluctantly, the council agreed. Then the Karth struck again. This time, they did not aim for leaders or cities. They aimed for trust. False transmissions spread across border systems. Fake footage showed human ships attacking neutral worlds. Other feeds showed Valari fleets abandoning allies. Confusion spread. Old rivalries flared. The galaxy began to fracture. Daniel watched the reports pile in, jaw clenched.
They're isolating us. They're trying, the Queen replied.
Human command proposed a massive show of force. Valari generals advised secrecy. Daniel shook his head. Neither will work alone. All eyes turned to him. We need to show the truth, he continued. Open channels, joint crews, mixed command ships. Let the galaxy see us together. The idea was radical, dangerous. The Queen considered it, then nodded. Do it. Within days, human and Valari crews stood side by side on shared vessels. Command bridges display both symbols. Communications were open publicly. The effect was immediate. Lies unraveled when reality spoke louder. But the Karth were not finished. They launched their final move. A full void fleet appeared at the edge of the Valari system. Not hidden, not subtle. A challenge. Human and Valari fleets formed together, facing the darkness. Daniel stood on the main command deck beside the Queen. The weight of the moment pressed down on him. This will be costly, he said. Yes, she replied. But it will end. The Karth transmitted a single message. Hand over the bonded human. The conflict ends. Silence followed. Daniel stepped forward. No. The Queen did not stop him. He is not an object, Daniel said calmly. He is not leverage. If you want war, you'll have to face us all. The Karth paused, then they attacked. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Void weapons tore at space itself. Human shields adapted in real time. Valari energy constructs bent attacks away from vulnerable ships. Daniel watched crews fight and protect each other without hesitation. Humans dragging wounded Valari to safety. Valari pilots sacrificing advantage to cover human ships. This was not alliance. This was unity. At the height of the battle, a Karth strike broke through toward the command ship. Brace! Someone shouted. The Queen stepped forward, crown blazing brighter than ever. She placed her hand on the console, channeling power through the ship's systems. Daniel felt it. Raw, ancient strength. The ship held. Human reinforcements arrived moments later, striking the Karth flank with precision and restraint. Not rage, control. The Karth fleet began to fall back. Then they did something unexpected. They broadcast. We withdraw, the message said.
The bond stands.
And just like that, the Void fleet vanished. The battle was over. The galaxy watched in silence. In the aftermath, the Queen and Daniel stood together in the observation chamber. The stars seemed calmer somehow.
You could have let them take you, the Queen said quietly.
Daniel shook his head. That would have broken everything we built. She turned to face him fully. You have changed my empire. Daniel smiled faintly. You changed me first. For a moment, there was no crown, no titles, just two beings standing at the edge of history. Beyond the stars, word spread. Humanity was no longer just expanding. Humanity was chosen. And the galaxy understood that whatever came next, it would not face humanity alone. The galaxy held its breath. After the Karth withdrew, the Volari capital buzzed with activity unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. Ships moved in constant orbit, citizens gathered in public squares to watch the fleets, and messages from distant systems poured in, praising what had happened. Human and Volari crews worked side by side, a living proof that two very different species could stand together and survive even the darkest threats. Daniel walked through the main command hall beside Queen Zaelthara. The room was bright with Volari light, symbols of victory glowing along the walls. Yet the air was not celebratory. It was tense. Old enemies were still out there, waiting. But now, for the first time, the Queen's enemies also had to reckon with humanity. They are planning, Daniel said, watching the reports come in. The Karth, and whoever else is out there, they won't just vanish because of one defeat. The Queen nodded, her eyes scanning the galaxy through the observation panel. Perhaps, but they now know one truth. This bond cannot be ignored. Daniel remembered the moment he had joked in the palace, that careless, foolish comment that had begun everything. It seemed impossible that one sentence could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Yet here they were. He had survived trials, wars, and assassination attempts, and now humanity was no longer just a species. It was a force that demanded respect. The Queen stopped walking and turned to him.
Daniel Reyes, the humans are not my subjects, yet you have proven that together, our strengths multiply.
You have shown my people what courage looks like when it is guided by heart, not conquest. That is, rare. Daniel looked down, uncomfortable with praise. I'm just a soldier. I did what anyone would do to protect lives. No, she said, stepping closer. Most would have chosen safety. Most would have hidden behind rules, behind law. You acted without thought for yourself, and because of that, the galaxy now sees hope. Daniel felt the weight of her words. He had trained for war, for strategy, for survival. But no one had ever asked him to lead like this. Through example, through courage, through humanity itself. The Queen extended her hand, a gesture both formal and intimate. Will you continue to stand with me, not as a soldier, but as my partner? Daniel's mind raced. Not a ruler, not a symbol, not a pawn, but a partner. The word carried weight, centuries of tradition, and yet it felt right.
I will, he said firmly.
If it means keeping our people safe and showing the galaxy what humans are capable of, then yes. She smiled slightly, a rare and genuine expression. The glow of her crown dimmed to a gentle shimmer. Then it is done. The bond is no longer whispered in secrecy. It is a promise, seen by all. News traveled faster than light. Across Volari space, citizens cheered in public squares. Human worlds broadcasted celebrations and support. The story of the joke, the Queen's acceptance, and the trials that followed became legend almost instantly. Other species took note, some with admiration, some with fear, but all understood one thing clearly. Humanity could not be ignored. The days that followed were filled with rebuilding and preparation. Human engineers worked with Valari scientists to strengthen defenses. Human diplomats taught Valari leaders the value of flexible strategy. Valari soldiers trained alongside humans to understand instinct, intuition, and courage. Daniel often found himself observing the training. Humans adapted to alien technology quickly. Valari adapted to human strategy even faster. Together, they formed a force that was unpredictable, resilient, and inspiring. The Queen joined him one evening on a balcony overlooking the capital. Stars stretched across the sky, a tapestry of light in every direction. Daniel leaned on the railing, the events of the past weeks pressing against him like a storm he could not escape.
"They will not stop testing us," Daniel said. "They will try," the Queen replied.
"But no force in the galaxy can break what is chosen willingly." Daniel nodded. "I understand now." That bond, our bond, it's more than tradition. It's proof. Proof that courage, trust, and choice matter more than firepower or fear. The Queen's gaze softened. And that is why the galaxy will remember this moment, and your people along with it. They will speak of humans differently now, as leaders, as protectors, as equals among stars. Daniel felt a surge of pride he had never allowed himself before, not as a soldier, not as a diplomat, but as a human being who had chosen to act. The joke, the careless words, the choice to speak honestly. They had all led here. Weeks later, a grand assembly was held in the central plaza of the Valari capital. Species from across the galaxy gathered to witness the union of two worlds. The Queen stood tall, her presence commanding attention even without her crown ablaze. Beside her, Daniel stood proudly, representing humanity not just as a visitor, but as an equal, as a partner, as a symbol of hope. The assembly was filled with speeches, agreements, and celebrations. The galaxy's leaders recognized the strength of the bond. They understood that what they had witnessed was not just a military or political alliance. It was proof that courage, honesty, and the human spirit could inspire change in even the oldest, most rigid civilizations. During the festivities, children ran through the plaza, laughing together despite species differences. Scientists shared discoveries, soldiers shared tactics. Humans and Valari exchanged stories, jokes, and traditions. Daniel watched it all, realizing that this was what he had fought to protect. Not territory, not power, not glory, but life, connection, and hope. The Queen stepped beside him once more. "You have changed my people, Daniel. And in doing so, you have changed the galaxy."
Daniel smiled, a small, weary smile. "I just spoke honestly."
That's all humans really know how to do. Her laugh was soft, rare, and genuine. "Then perhaps your people have more wisdom than I ever believed." For the first time, Daniel did not feel fear, doubt, or hesitation. He felt purpose. The galaxy was wide, full of challenges, and still dangerous. But he knew now that humanity would not stand alone. And neither would the Queen. The bond was no longer a secret, no longer a trial. It was a promise. A proof, a force the galaxy had to respect. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Daniel understood that one joke, one brave moment, and one honest choice had forever changed the fate of two species. And somewhere in the vastness of space, old enemies recalculated their strategies, realizing they had underestimated humans. They had underestimated courage, empathy, and the willingness to stand together. Humanity had shown its true power, not in weapons, not in numbers, but in heart. And the Valari, guided by the courage of a single human, had learned that even the most ancient traditions could embrace change. As the crowd cheered and the twin flags of Earth and the Valari Dominion waved together under alien stars, Daniel and the Queen stood side by side, a living testament that the galaxy would never be the same. The bond they had forged, unexpected and improbable, had survived trials, attacks, and doubt, and it had become legend. The universe had learned that humanity was unpredictable, brave, and unyielding. And Daniel Reyes, once a soldier making a careless joke, smiled quietly to himself, knowing that humanity had truly earned its place among the stars.